no-wait news at 10 starts now.
I'm Brad Hudson. Welcome to KIDK NewsWatch 3.
And I'm JOLYN Thomas. Thanks so much for being with us this evening. Let's get right to our top story.
Thousands of Medicare recipients, including some here in Idaho, got a nice surprise in the mail recently, a check for around $200.
But now the government wants that money back. KIDK NewsWatch 3's Betsy Lambert talked with an Idaho Falls woman about the mistake.
Don't cash that check. That's the message the government is sending some 230,000 Medicare recipients after they were mistakenly reimbursed for premiums they paid for prescription drug coverage, just like Idaho Falls resident Laura Watlington.
We're, over 65, and the government makes these plans, and we agree to do that, and then they come back and scare us to death with a letter in the mail that doesn't explain why they're taking money out of our refunding money and taking it out of our account.
Medicare officials say they caught the glitch after checks totaling nearly $50 million were sent out. Medicare officials have sent out a second batch of letters telling recipients the money must be returned.
This mistake was the result of the government trying to solve a larger problem.
Experts say in trying to fix a glitch that caused Part D recipients to be overcharged for premiums, instead Medicare sent out reimbursement checks, most of them averaging about $215 each.
For people on fixed income, this can be a lot of money.
The Medicare administrator tried to reassure seniors, saying it's very important for people to know their coverage is continuing. There's no disruption at all. But critics and recipients like Laura Watlington say they don't have much faith the government will be able to correct all the billing issues. Just one of a string of difficulties the program has faced since it started in January. In Idaho Falls, Betsy Lambert, NewsWatch 3.
Now, if you think you might be a victim of the Medicare mix-up, you should call Medicare and then give them your information.
That was our top story tonight, and we have much more to report on.
With terror looming everywhere, the U.S. is getting serious about screening airline passengers around the world, and they're looking for international cooperation. A victim of Hurricane Katrina wanted to get a message to President Bush. Instead, he got to do it in person. And a man with a guilty conscience set the source of his guilt on fire. These stories and a whole lot more starting right now.
Earlier tonight, the School District 25 Board of Trustees ratified the contract between teachers and the Pocatello Education Association. The board's decision comes on the heels of a teacher meeting this afternoon where educators accepted the agreement.
I'm very pleased to be able to bring the results.
There were a couple of items that were deleted out of the contract, and the teachers weren't real pleased about that, but they wanted to be able to ratify. They understand give and take.
Also approved a 1% raise for all District 25 employees. 2 weeks ago today, 4 people lost their lives in a helicopter crash in the Payette National Forest while on a fire suppression mission. One of them was Monica Zients.
Tonight, friends and family gathered in the Gate City for a memorial service in her honor. KIDK NewsWatch 3's Sarah Swaby was at that funeral service, and she joins us now live in Pocatello. Sarah?
JOLYN, family and friends met tonight to share stories and help each other deal with their loss.
She's not one that would have sat around and wanted us to mourn for her.
And so tonight, family and friends gathered at the Red Lion Hotel, not to mourn, but to celebrate Monica Zients' life.
She was wonderful and beautiful, and we love and miss her.
A memorial was held in McCall last weekend, but family members wanted the Pocatello community to also have a chance to pay their last respects.
It was important to just honor her here as well, because this is where part of her life was.
Picture collages commemorating special events and happy times were on display. Zients' stepsister Lacey remembers tough rivalries growing up.
When we were younger, it became a battle of who could top who on pranks and who could beat up who the best, and she normally won.
But as maturity set in, rivalry turned to admiration.
She's someone I looked up to very much.
Monica Zients began fighting fires back in 1999. I'm told that she is following in her brother's and father's footsteps by becoming a firefighter. She was 27 years old. In Pocatello, I'm Sarah Swaby, NewsWatch 3.
The death of a Rigby teenager is serving as a sad reminder about water safety. 13-year-old Lane Hawk died yesterday in a personal watercraft accident at Palisades Reservoir. He collided with his sister, who was on another machine. He was wearing a life jacket. Experts say there are other safety precautions that all personal watercraft drivers need to observe.
Give yourself at least a good, 15, 20-foot play radius between the machines. And you also don't want to cut behind the boats or in front of the boats because none of the watercraft, even boats in particular, have brakes.
Experts also urge parents to put bright-colored helmets on their children.
Madison School District is asking residents for a $40 million bond. Officials say the number of students has grown so much that more classrooms are needed. If passed, the bond would provide additional schools for students of all ages.
2 new elementary schools, remodeled 2 other elementary schools, remodeled the old high school, phase out the junior high, which is old and in bad shape, and then build a new high school.
66% of voters must be in favor of the bond in order for it to pass. Voting is set for next Wednesday from 12 to 8 at all of the schools in the district except Central High School.
Pocatello's housing market is seeing significant growth since the beginning of the year. The city planning office has issued nearly 150 building permits for new home construction. Pocatello saw record growth in 2005, and city building officials say 06 could be stronger.
It doesn't seem to have slowed down any from last year, and these are some of the stronger years we've seen here in 30 or 50 years.
Transtrom says the last time Pocatello saw this much growth was 1976 and 1949.
School began today for kids in the Bonneville School District, and a number of parents are concerned over their children walking to school. That's because there are 6 sex offenders living within a 1-mile radius of Falls Valley Elementary School, and many parents say it's just not safe for their children to walk by those homes.
I don't know anything about the sex offenders or what the situation is, but I do know that it just isn't safe for our children to walk that route because of it.
The parents we spoke with today say that they wish they could solve the problem by simply driving their kids to school, but they say for many parents that's simply not an option.
The Moscow City Council passes a resolution making sure that full-time city employees and some contract workers are paid a minimum of $10.25 an hour. The lowest paid city worker already makes $10.75 an hour, but Councilwoman Linda Paul says it's a good way for Idaho cities to support progressive economic development. The resolution passed on a 4-2 vote. It also applies to businesses with city contracts worth at least $25,000 and employing 10 people or more.
2 journalists kidnapped by Palestinians make a televised plea as the kidnappers make trade demands. The kidnappers want Muslim prisoners in U.S. jails released in exchange for the safe return of Fox News reporter Steve Centanni and his cameraman. The men appear in a video today saying they've been well treated since they were taken a week ago.
Alive and well, in fairly good health. We get lots of clean water, food every day.
The formerly unknown Holy Jihad Brigades claimed responsibility for grabbing the men from their TV van in Gaza City at gunpoint.
With the recent terror threat in London and the potential for another attack, more pressure is on the U.S. government to become more aggressive with airline passenger screening.
Now, Brad, the U.S. wants international cooperation, but as Bob Orr reports, there are some countries that say the U.S. is a little lax in some of its profiling tactics.
Even before the London bomb plot surfaced, U.S. security agents were already digging deep into the personal backgrounds of all airline passengers inbound from Europe. In addition to matching names, birth dates, and addresses against terror watch lists, agents also have been combing through credit card accounts, phone numbers, emails, even rental car reservations, looking for suspicious links. For example, unrelated passengers who bought their flights with the same credit card, shared a hotel room, or traded email messages. Now the Department of Homeland Security wants to be even more aggressive. It's pushing the European Union for permission to share that personal passenger information with the CIA, the FBI, and various law enforcement agencies. Background checks are far more limited for domestic passengers. Names are checked, but credit card histories are not. Security agents are increasingly also on guard for suspicious behavior. But the former head of security for the Israeli airline El Al says the U.S. needs to do more.
We must do what we have to do. We must do profiling.
Marvin Badler says the U.S. is taking a big risk by not allowing racial profiling. All 19 hijackers on 9/11 were young Muslim males, and the suspects in the London bomb plot share the same ethnic and religious background.
If you have 10 Muslims that we know have been trying to blow up our planes, why are you going to pick on an old Jewish lady sitting in a wheelchair? It doesn't make sense.
But Arab Americans complain they are being singled out for harassment. The Iberahim family claims they were recently detained and questioned for 6 hours with no explanation after returning to JFK Airport in New York on a flight from Dubai.
We were constantly being yelled at, we were threatened arrest, and our requests to speak to supervisors were denied.
U.S. officials deny that any passenger is being targeted because of race, but they're unapologetic in their push for access to the kind of personal information they believe could stop the next terror attack. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Hot, stormy weather whipped up a batch of new fires in central and eastern Oregon. Fire crews have been battling a wildfire complex near Mount Hood for more than a week now. It's a big hit for the local economy because Highway 35, which is a major north-south tourist route, has been closed much of the time. Fire officials say they will have to let some of these fires burn for a while because firefighting resources are stretched thin.
And a fire near Billings, Montana has forced the evacuation of about 200 homes. The Yellowstone County Sheriff has reports of 2 homes being destroyed and a third damaged. The fire has burned more than 3,300 acres so far. The flames also jumped over Interstate 90, forcing officials to close the major east-west route. As the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina approaches, one survivor wants to make sure those still suffering in the South are not forgotten. Rockey Vaccarella drove all the way to Washington, towing his trailer. The Bush administration sent in its Gulf Coast coordinator to meet for dinner with Vaccarella, but the coordinator was so impressed, he got Vaccarella a meeting with the president.
Him and I just sat there as 2 Southern boys talking about some of the olden days and some of the things that he's going to do.
Vaccarella says he's leaving Washington with hope and assurances from President Bush that more help is on the way. The Wyoming primary is over, and that means the battle for the governor's office is just starting to heat up. Governor Freudenthal says state agencies spent more than 6,000 hours responding to an election year records request by the Wyoming Republican Party. The GOP wanted records on Freudenthal's use of the state aircraft, the state's hiring of outside consultants, and all sole source contracts approved by the governor. The Associated Press estimates the total cost of the search at around $120,000. Freudenthal says he believes the GOP put very little thought into what the records request would mean to state employees. Drake Hill is chairman of the Wyoming Republican Party. He says he's suspicious of the time figures from the governor's office, calling it fuzzy math. The Wyoming Public Service Commission will conduct a formal investigation into a phone outage on August 1st that knocked out 911 service to most communities across Wyoming. The outage occurred when a fiber optic line was cut on the north side of Cheyenne. Most of the state, including Jackson and Cody, lost 911 service for at least several hours. Some cell phone and some long-distance service also was affected. Quest is undertaking improvements, so if an interruption happens on one part of the line, calls can be routed on another path. U.S. Interior Secretary Dirk Kempthorne is on a 3-day tour of Wyoming this week. He's spending time at an energy development and will visit Yellowstone National Park. Kempthorne will be accompanied by Senator Craig Thomas. The trip to Wyoming will help Kempthorne become familiar with local issues, especially those related to natural resource development. Kempthorne was scheduled to tour drilling operations at the Pinedale Anticline and Jonah natural gas fields. West Nile virus is spreading in Wyoming, and it's knocking at the back door of Jackson Hole. 3 more cases of human West Nile have been confirmed in Fremont County. All 3 are recovering. So far, 6 people in the state have come down with that virus.
And now, Ken Garcia with your exclusive AccuWeather 3 forecast.
And good evening. Today in Jackson, a pretty nice day. I bet you did smell some smoke. The winds kind of was blowing some smoke around. Today, we made it up to 82 degrees this evening, or early this morning, though, we were at 39, so right around where we should be for this time of year. Now, if we take a look at some temperatures around the rest of the area, it stayed warm in many places, and Idaho Falls also very warm. Now, if we take a look here at the radar, you'll see clouds are pushing through. These will push through overnight, bringing you nice, clear skies by early tomorrow morning. Plus, it's going to get a little bit cooler here coming up over the next 48 hours. What's going